Hey global leader, welcome to Joyride with Expatriates. In this show, we interview every month a different person to talk about their expatriation experiences, cultural challenges, and how they become an effective person while living abroad. Hi, I'm Tatyana Fittipaldi, and in this channel, we make videos to help global leaders become more productive, more effective, and help them improve their leadership, both in business and life. Today, we have the pleasure of talking with Amelie Papin. Amelie was born in France and is a multi-expatriate. She lived in the US, Hong Kong, Switzerland, Spain, and China. She has nearly 20 years of international experience in global accounting management, corporate relations, business development, general management within service companies. Today, she's a health and wellness coach and a certified positive intelligence coach and trainer. She supports French expats to thrive on their return home by strengthening their mental health, reducing their stress, and increasing their self-confidence. Currently, she lives with her partner and Chinese repatriated cat called Buzz in Bordeaux, France. Please join me in welcoming Amelie to our show. So Amelie, welcome to our show.
Hi, Tati. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome. I'm happy too. So I want to pre-frame the show with something awesome that I saw today. So look at here.
Wow.
We are here for a reason, right?
Yes, we are. We
awesome,
are.
Right? That's a pre-frame for our show. So good.
I love
it.
With
that, awesome starting note. So how about we start by you sharing your background and some of the stories. Why? So you're about your expatriation. Why you ended up having those experiences. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I was born in France with a Swiss heritage. So both my parents are French, and on my mom's side, they're Swiss. I'm an expat child. My dad, he worked for a multinational company, and I was very lucky because I got to grow up in very different countries. I grew up living in the US, in Hong Kong, in Switzerland. So I got exposed to a lot of different cultures. And I just got used to living abroad. So naturally, I decided to do international business and management. And I studied in France, but I also did Erasmus studies in Spain. And I got to do really cool internships, both in France and in Spain. And, when I graduated, I was kind of in between two worlds. I was hesitant between going back to the US and going to Asia. And I had this really amazing opportunity come my way, and I was able to go to China for 6 months. And that was just a fabulous experience. And after that, I had the opportunity to go back to France again and work between China and France. And I just felt I had started something with China that I hadn't really finished. So I decided to quit the job that I had there in France and move back to China.
No way.
And I ended up staying 10 years.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, that's an interesting story. So you have a wide variety of experiences in very different cultures, right? So tell me about these expatriation experiences. What did you miss when you were there? What did you miss from your country, and what were the things that you didn't miss?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think, we went back to France every year, so I got to see my family. But I got used to being away from, my grandparents and my friends. And I think that basically, I grew up in the US, so I had my primary education that was there. And then I actually started the school system, the French school system in Hong Kong, that I pursued afterwards in Switzerland. So I think that, I gained a little bit of everything from every culture. And what I miss today from all these different countries is I guess for China, it's the food because you don't get real Chinese food outside of China.
Everybody said that, yeah.
And then what else? I think I really miss the laid back and very friendly atmosphere from California, where I grew up. Sunny California everybody's very welcoming and very nice. And I think for Switzerland, it's, the really beautiful sceneries. We got to ski in some just amazing parts of the country. And I think for Spain, it's the food as well. I love food. And it's just I know, right? So just, the warm atmosphere and the sunny vibes. So that's, I would say, what I miss. What I don't miss, there's not a lot of things that I don't miss because I think I blend in pretty easily everywhere. But I think for China, for instance, I don't miss the pollution and, having to use a VPN to connect to a lot of things online.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So having that, I don't miss being restricted on that end. So yeah. It's I'd love to.
And when you say that, you say because they impose a lot of restrictions in terms of the access. That's what you mean?
Yeah, just for connecting to, websites that we're used to connecting to back here, you need a VPN, an external connection to go to use Google, Facebook,
really?
Instagram,
so other people
and
are
everything.
not allowed to use those things.
Exactly. Like if you don't have a VPN, you can't go on a lot of social media, and there's a lot of news that you can't read. So that's a very helpful tool, and a lot of people have one to just be able to counter that.
And do you have to apply to have a VPN to be allowed to use a VPN?
No, I mean, it's a paid service and there are very different
so
VPNs available. Okay. So you buy it online. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So tell me so in these countries that you said you were able to blend in, etc. So in these countries, so I mean, imagine it wasn't that, hard for you based on this comment, but I just wanted to understand what was your biggest challenge or cultural shock in tell either one or all of them. What was the biggest shock?
There were a few, but I would say, in China, it was really learning the language. Like I had learned Chinese a little bit before going there, but, it's so different when you get there. I mean, luckily I chose like an immersion program, so I was welcomed at the airport by somebody who didn't speak Chinese, who didn't speak English, right? But he was there welcoming me, so I wasn't alone at the airport. And then I had someone guide me to my apartment and take me to my first day of work. But on a daily basis, speaking Chinese was difficult, right? I actually have a very funny story, which is so this was the very first year in China, and I was not very good with the tones in Mandarin. And I was just starting to make a living, right? And I wanted to go to the French supermarket to buy some homemade soup because I was a bit lazy and I didn't want to make my own. And that's what you find easily in French supermarkets. And so I asked the lady, because the shop was huge, like, where can I find soup? And I ended up in the sweets corner, like, where you buy sweets and sugar. And I was so confused. And she just left. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to find any soup here. And then I realized I just hadn't pronounced the word right. So when you say soup, it's tong. And when you say sweets, it's tong. And so clearly I hadn't said that right. And, that happens all the time in China. It's the same word, but with a different tone. So that was challenging.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. And I had a similar experience in Spain. Actually, I worked in a company where no one spoke English, no one spoke French. And I had no other choice than to speak Spanish. And luckily, I had learned quite a lot of Spanish back in school. So it was just a matter of practicing it. And I got into the rhythm a bit more quickly than in China because Spanish, when your French is a bit easier to speak.
Closer. There are some words, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. But it was still very tiring. You know, you have to focus, you have to listen, you have to pay attention a lot, and it requires a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So I would say really that like the first few months, both in Spain and in China, where I was so tired, I would go to bed really early and I would sleep a lot.
You bet. No, it's no wonder. It's really tiring to speak a different to be in a different culture and to speak a different language. It's really tiring. It requires all our brain power. So yeah, so no wonder you were tired. Absolutely. So and tell me, so you are a wellness and mental fitness coach. You're working with French folks, helping them to repatriate into France again. So tell me a little bit about, you know, what are the tough things that or some of the things your clients go through.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, they have the obvious challenges of, you know, having to do all the administrative and logistical things of, you know, leaving your host country and moving back. Those are things I don't take care of, but that whole process is very stressful.
Absolutely.
Right. And usually you have your company helping you, or you have agencies, or you find tips online on, you know, how to move back and, you know, how to open a bank account when you get into France, or, you know, start the social security system and all that. But you're never really mentally prepared for the reverse culture shock of, you know, you're French, but you're a bit different because you grew, right? You gained experiences all over the world, and
Yeah.
you've changed a lot. And so they're very anxious. They're scared that they're not going to fit in. They struggle to connect with family and friends who, if they haven't been abroad, they don't really understand what it's like to come back to your home country. And, you know, they kind of question their own identity and their values as well. So I help them to just, you know, take a step back, appreciate their experience abroad, appreciate who they have become, and just be very comfortable with who they are, and just realign with the different values that they've built, and just take things step by step.
Yeah.
You know, regain a positive outlook, try to be curious. You know, usually when you go abroad to a new country, you're very curious, you know, you're in awe with everything. But when you come back to your home country, you're kind of like, oh, I know everything already.
Yeah,
And,
you shift the mindset for some reason. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're a bit, you know, maybe I have a tendency of being a bit judgmental. And so the idea is really to just help them just relax a bit in terms of what it is to come back home, and just be comfortable with the fact that they have changed. Maybe some things in France haven't changed, which sometimes is very difficult to cope with. And just to, you know, appreciate that they've gained experience that they can actually bring back to France, both in their personal and professional life, that they're, you know, they're very rich with a lot of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes, you know, it's not that bad to go back and reevaluate our values. You know, it's hard, right? It's hard to do it, especially in this context, but it's not a bad thing. I think it's actually a great opportunity. And so it's awesome that you help them, you know, shift back this mindset to a growth mentality and being open and curious. Awesome. That's really
exactly
great.
Yeah, and, you know, just really building that awareness of, you know, how can you flex your muscles and just look at things from a different angle, because their perspectives have changed for sure. So, you know, it's just building that power to appreciate everything that life has given to them, and you know, just creating new habits so that they serve them more than they, you know, sabotage themselves.
It's true. That's true. So, and when you came to, you know, when you came back to France, what was your most challenging repatriation aspect?
Wow. So there have been a few, because I came back to France at different times of my life. The first time was when I was 16, and I had left France when I was 5, right? So that was a long time abroad. And like I said, we came back to France every summer, but it's very different when
It's
you come back
different,
for the
yeah.
summer and when you actually move back. And I had, I had all these, I had mainly American cultural references, American TV shows or American songs and movies. I watched Sesame Street and Garfield and The Golden Girls and The Cosby Show. Nobody knew about those here. And, I remember the first parties as a teenager and they would put on music and I was like, never heard of these songs before.
Everybody's singing along and you are like quiet, right? Yeah.
Exactly. You're kind of like, okay, I'm going to try to move to these beats. And it felt a bit lonely at first, I felt a bit isolated because I couldn't understand why they were, having so much fun, and no one could relate to what I had experienced as well. So it was a bit, it was a bit complicated at the beginning, but, gradually you get used to, the songs and the shows and everything. And I actually realized afterwards that we had watched the same movies, but since I had watched them in English and they had watched it in French with a different title, sometimes I was like, no, I've never seen this movie, but actually I had. So it was, a bit confusing, and, you get used to it, you adapt. And I think so that was really as a young teenager. And then most recently, 2 years ago, when I moved back after 10 years in China, that was a big chapter of my life. And the thing that struck me is that in China, you do everything with your phone, right? You pay your taxi with your phone, you pay your groceries with your phone, you pay your plane ticket with your phone, you do everything with your phone.
They're very connected with technology.
Always. Okay. And here, people were still using checks or they were using cash. And I remember like going to the boulangerie, to the bread shop and wanting to buy a baguette, which is, less than €3. And they would ask me for cash, or at least before the COVID era, right? And I would be like, I don't have any cash. So I would have to leave the shop, go to the ATM, take money out, and then come back and pay for my groceries. So that was, it takes a bit of getting used to, and checks as well. People still use checks. I hadn't used checks in years. So these aren't big challenges, but still, it's little things to get used to.
You have to change the mindset because you have to change little habits like going to the ATM. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Things like that. And well, luckily, my parents have been living here for a while. And so they helped me out with all the administrative processes because I was completely lost. Like even the French employment agency name had changed. So my dad, when I tell him, oh, I probably need to contact that agency, he's like, that's not how we call it anymore. So yeah, things like that made it, I had to laugh about it because, what can you do? You've been away and things are different. So you just need to get used to
so it
how
sounds
things are
like
done.
A good tip that you could give in terms of repatriation is, having the support of someone who, has been here while you were gone and have them help you out with some of these things. So this could be a tip.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you can ask your friends who are here and, how do you do things, even if you're afraid of sounding a bit silly, or if you think they might judge you, just, be very open and be like, I have no idea how things work. Can you just remind me the basics or guide me to the right websites where I could maybe find the information? Or, you have Facebook groups now with expats, and a lot of people share tips and all that. And that has been very helpful for me too, as well. Another tip is, see if you can find other people who have lived abroad as well. And just ask them, like, how was it for you? And what do I need to watch out for? I reconnected with some friends of mine who had lived in China and who moved back here. And they just took me to local restaurants. And they also helped me find the right internet company to apply for internet, things like that. It sounds really silly, but you don't know how things work anymore. So they're your best companions.
And who are the
basically.
best providers, or who provides the service that you really
Yeah.
need. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
simple, but it's not. It's actually it's really important to our daily lives. Yeah, makes sense.
Exactly. I remember asking all my friends, which internet provider are you with? Which electricity provider are you with? What are the best deals in town? Like, I spent a lot of time asking questions, but everybody was very happy to help me. They were also very happy that I was back. So that's also something, you've changed. People are also very happy that you're back, and so a lot of them are very open to helping out because they know, okay, it might be a bit difficult. At least they might not do it naturally or spontaneously. So I would say, go ask them, because they might have an
They will
idea of
not
what it is to come
realize
back,
that you're in this spot of of transition, let's put it this way. Yeah.
Exactly. Things are very obvious for them. So the obvious, they might actually not tell you. They might not state it, right?
True,
So
yeah. So,
yeah.
and since we're talking about tips, what tips would you have for our audience about those cultures that you lived in, so that we don't have any misunderstandings, for example, like the soup misunderstanding, for example?
Oh, well, that requires getting a really good Chinese teacher. I have a very good one. Actually, we're still in contact, so I'm happy to share his contacts. I would just really say to be very open in the beginning, and to ask, professionally ask your colleagues, how are things done in the company? What are the main processes that we need to follow? I think that works for any company that you go to anywhere in the world. But, I think for China, what was really different from what I had experienced in France. I mean, luckily I had worked in France with China, so I kind of had a preview of how things would be. But in China, the boss usually is sitting in the middle of the table, and he's surrounded by the operational team, and he speaks to the other boss, right? And the other boss has also his operational team. And usually the operational team doesn't talk, right? It's bosses, managers, directors, they speak together, and the operational team are just really there to support him, kind of like his or her wingwoman. And that's really important, because I remember in my last job, I was working with our Chinese branches, and whenever I needed to go see a supplier, I needed the branch manager to be there, but also the operational team, and perhaps maybe someone from the technical team as well. Probably they wouldn't say anything, but they needed to be present. And especially the director, he needed to be involved in the discussion, even though I was the intermediary person, working on the contract. So that's really something important to pay attention to in
So
China.
it sounds like there is a hierarchy involved in this, and you shouldn't barge in. So you should pay attention to to status, let's put it this way.
Exactly. Yeah. In terms of meetings and negotiations, that's really, really important. What else? I think, in China, everything is very demanding in terms of your time. You're always connected. Like we were saying, your phone, everything is in your phone, but also people expect you to answer very quickly. In France, they don't expect that at all. There's a clearer boundary between work and personal life. Maybe a little less now with COVID and working from home and home offices. But in China, you're expected to reply really fast. I remember anybody could reach out to me anytime, and I could reach out to anybody, even in the evening, even during the weekends, even during holidays. There's you never stop. It's 24/7, except maybe for the Chinese holidays, like the main ones where everybody's in family, and so we don't get in touch. But in France, there's at the end of the day, you close your computer on Friday, you close your computer and you reopen it on Monday, and you're not expected to look at work emails or answer any work emails over the weekend. So that's something I really appreciate now that I'm back here in France. Although there's a slight difference that when you're a business owner or you're an entrepreneur, obviously your timetable, your time schedule is a bit different, and you probably work a little bit more than when you're an employee in a company. But And again, once again, that might have changed also with COVID, the lines are a bit more blurry now. But those are really differences that I've noticed in terms of communication and negotiation and personal time, professional time as well.
So since you're talking about engagement, like how people engage in different places, do you have any take on how people engage differently in each of these countries that you've been to? Besides this aspect of connectivity, of being, so connected or technologically more driven. So what else? How do people connect in each of these countries? Like, how do they relate to each other?
What I could say is that in terms of like working together, once the decision has been made, for instance, in China to work on a project, everybody works together and it's a real team effort. And I would say that maybe in France, we're a bit more individualistic, there's less of this team effort. Although once again, as an entrepreneur, I'm used to working and collaborating with different people. So the dynamics are a bit different if you're working, solely in the corporate world or in the entrepreneurial world. But a main difference that I've noticed is in China, there's no real agenda to things. And actually, even when you sign a contract, things can change like an hour before you actually go through the meeting or you start the project. And things change really, really quickly. Whereas in France, we plan things ahead of time. We have an agenda and we actually stick to it. So you know what to expect. Whereas in China, you never really know what's going to happen. Things might change and you just never really know when. So it could be a bit, you can feel a bit insecure in China. After a while, you get used to it, used to knowing that there might be changes. Whereas in France, yeah, things are well known in advance, and sometimes plan things even 6 months or a year ahead. So things are very laid out and very clear for everybody. And I would say there's a lot of collaboration tools for everybody to work together. Whereas perhaps in China, it's really like the directors that work together, and you don't have a lot of tools where everybody chips in. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. No, that's amazing. That's really interesting. And so let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about discrimination. Have you suffered any discrimination in any of these places that you've been expatriated to because of your origin? So tell us a little bit about your perspective on that.
I've never suffered any discrimination per se, or at least I wouldn't call that discrimination. I think that I felt welcomed everywhere I went. I remember when we were in the States, at the beginning, I didn't speak a word of English. My parents spoke very little English as well. We had our neighbors come to our home and, give us a piece of cake to welcome us. So that was simply amazing. And I had to learn English and go to school at the same time. And, I was very well integrated. In China as well, I think it's more because I was, I'm white, I have blonde hair and green eyes. You get stared at a lot. I wouldn't say that's discrimination, but that's more curiosity.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember people taking pictures of me, sometimes without even asking me. I'd be looking at something and someone would just like rush.
Right? Oh, I'm looking at my phone here.
Exactly. And poof, they would take a picture, it's almost as if they would put their hand around me, to be like, we're friends, So that was, you're a bit in the beginning, like, what is this? And then you get used to it. And that was mainly in touristy places, I would say, because you also get people from all over China who come to the capital or to, the main cities to visit. So it's also a trip for them. So no real discrimination, really. Just, I think, plain curiosity. And I never, obviously you stick out, but you don't, no, I've never had any real challenges in that sense.
So tell me, I'm very curious to know your perspective about how did all these expatriation experiences play out in terms of your growth? So how do they benefit you today?
I think they're very humbling experiences, I would say. I think they've taught me to be really curious and very open and acceptant of, very tolerant of everybody's differences, to be to be less judgmental. I think that the first times I came back to France, I felt a little bit judgmental towards French. And, 2 years ago, I really felt a big shift in my mindset. Like, I didn't feel so judgmental towards French anymore because, I understood that they didn't really they didn't have the experience that I had. So, it was really more about being open and sharing and, even helping them create maybe the need or the interest of going abroad. So I think that's really what my expatriations have taught me. I love to travel. I think I have the travel bug thanks to my parents. I'm looking forward to the borders reopening so that I can go see my friends in Germany and Hungary, and a lot of people who I met in China. They're not all over the world, and I just can't wait to go visit them. Yeah, I would say that I'm just very comfortable wherever I go. When you're used to going to countries that you don't know and used to, just being observant and learning to adapt, it's kind of like you can adapt anywhere after that, because you have that awareness that things are different and that it takes time also to get used to a new country or to a new place. And so I think it has developed a lot of my patience. Like, I wasn't very patient before. And, over the years, maybe that's also age and maturity, but, over the years, I guess I've become very patient with myself and with others. And it's just really opened my mind to the fact that are just amazing human beings, and we've got such rich cultures all over the world. I mean, even when I was in China, the differences between Beijing and Shanghai and all the other cities, there's such diversity, and it's just been really fascinating. For me, it's just been a very humbling experiencing.
You touched a point of a very interesting point, which is, at least for me, my experience is the more you are open and start to see the differences, the more it seems you want to learn about new differences, right? It's almost like it sparks your curiosity. So I can totally relate to the travel bug that you said. Like I can really relate.
Yeah. And it's something that, it's so important to keep that when you move back to your home country, that curiosity for others.
Absolutely.
To keep that is really, because you meet people from different walks of life in your home country, right? So it's being aware of that and just being open to the possibility of, meeting new people. It opens a lot of doors for you as well. It's a lot about inclusion as well. We have such diverse mindset within the same country. So there's a lot to explore.
Absolutely. And so my next question actually is a little bit different. And I started this since the last episode because a lot of people have been asking me about this. So I wanted you to share either one or a few hand gestures that are very common in France. And just to give you a flavor, so I'm going to share a few from Brazil. So for example, if you want to say that, something is delicious, you might say, "Mwah." You might make this gesture. Or if you want to say that something is delicious, or also something that is neat and clean, you can say, "Oh, this is really good." And you do this gesture like this. So do you have anything, that comes to your mind that is common in French?
Actually, we also do that. We also do that when we think something is delicious. So that's pretty cool. Also, something that we do is, I don't care, or it's not my business.
That's in Brazil, we do that
this.
too.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Something is important not to do. If you want to say it's okay, don't do this. Because if you do this in France, it means zero, right? It means it doesn't mean anything, right? So okay would be more like this, right?
Yeah,
it's
in
cool.
Brazil, okay would be more like this, and this could be the middle finger or zero too in Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I will be very careful if I go to Brazil.
Yeah.
And then this isn't a hand gesture, but it's something that's very French, is la bise. So when you kiss people, it's also very Swiss. I'm actually French with a Swiss heritage. So in France, you actually kiss on the cheek twice or four times, depending on the region. And in Switzerland, it's three times. So I get confused, if I spend a lot of time in France and then I meet someone who's from Switzerland, I do two kisses and he's like, where's my third kiss?
It's funny. In Brazil, we kiss too. Like we kiss when we meet friends, we say hi with a kiss. And it depending on where in Brazil, because Brazil is really big, it either 1, 2, or 3, 2. That's quite interesting.
It is. Really, and obviously you wouldn't kiss someone in a professional environment, right? Usually we would shake hands. But if you're introduced by friends, or if you're meeting friends or family members, you would kiss. And even men would kiss on the cheek.
Even
if
men.
they know each other.
In Brazil, men don't usually. They kiss, if it's another gender, but if it's man to man, it's just like a hug or something like that.
In France, same gender, they kiss. Like my boyfriend and my brother-in-law, they kiss. I have really good friends, they kiss. Well, not kiss on the lips. Once again, we need to be clear on that, but kiss on the cheeks.
Yeah, on the cheeks. Yeah, in Brazil, it's on the cheeks too. Awesome. So our last question before we wrap up is actually what we've been doing since the start of the program, which is sharing a card from our locus of control deck. And what's gonna happen is I'll share the card with you. You're going to read it out loud to the audience, and then you're going to say whatever comes to your mind. How about that?
Sounds good. All right, shoot.
Okay, so let me share here real quick.
All right, career. I decide what I focus on. I am in control of my life. Far and away, the best prize that life has to offer is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. Theodore Roosevelt. That's a strong one. So what comes to my mind when I read that? Can I see the card again?
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think what comes to my mind is that there's so much that we don't control, but there's so much that we can control, right? There's so much that we can influence, and it's really about our attitude, the way that we say things, the way we act, or we receive information and then decide to move on with that information. So I think that's really what comes to my mind, our capacity to be able to distinguish what is in my control, what is not, so that you can really spend more time and energy and your focus on what's in your control, because then you're fully responsible for that. You're not responsible for things that come your way. You're responsible for, okay, how do I welcome this information or this situation or this challenge? I'm at choice. What do I want to do with what's coming my way? And just being very, very open and very curious to, what is this? What do I want to do with it? How can I move forward and just be happy with the decision that I make, or what can I learn from the situation? That's really what comes to my mind.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting because the deck is exactly for that, to help us see that in every topic, right, in every card, in every topic that we have, actually it might seem like we don't have any control, but we always have control over something, and we can do something about it. It depends on our mindset, as you said. So you put it brilliantly. Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you. I love this card game. It's amazing. You created this?
Yes, I did. So it's 28 cards. Every card has a different topic, and I am going to launch a challenge where we're going to explore every day a different card like this, and help us, see that actually we are in control, in the sense that we can focus on the things that are in our control and not, in other things. And sometimes we worry about things that there is nothing we can do about, right? And then because we're so focused on those things, we miss what we can do, and in the things that are in our control. So yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah,
totally
absolutely.
agree. Oh, that's exciting.
So
Congratulations. This is a really, really great tool, I think, to help shift perspectives.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to seeing more of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Amelie, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your stories, your perspective. I really am thankful and grateful for you. And I really loved our time together.
Oh, so did I. Wow, time flies. Thank you so much for welcoming me. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the great vibes that you're sending also through these talks, because I'm feeling super energized just speaking with you. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. And I hope that the listeners will have useful tips that will support them when they go abroad and or go to any other new country.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tati. Thank you so much.
Hey, I want to tell you one more thing. You are a global leader. The question is, do you have all the skills that you need to succeed? I'd love to help. I save my very best tips for my subscribers. Subscribe for free at coachingexpatriates.com. I know your inbox is sacred, so I promise I will send you emails that you will love. Whoa, that was cool. That was really awesome. As always, guys, we will leave the links of everything that we discussed in the description below. If you liked this video, please give us a like so other people can find us, and consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell so that you can be notified about new videos, and thank you so much for watching.